Hey, how's it going? So I'm leaving Vermont right now, if you can't tell from the beautiful leaves behind me in the car. And I really like Vermont. I don't think it'll be the last time I'm there, especially considering they have a $10,000 tax credit that they're giving. Or I think it's actually just cash. $10,000 cash that they're giving to kids young people who want to move to Vermont to start working in the workforce. So that's very exciting. Some of the main problems, it sounds like, that are in Vermont are it's very difficult to get a job because so many people like living there and they don't always pay you enough to live the lifestyle that is necessitated by living in at least Burlington and the surrounding area, but it sounds like it's a similar issue as far as jobs being scarce elsewhere. First thing I did is I showed up in Winooski. I was staying with Seth, who's the mayor of Winooski, and Jen, who is his girlfriend. And they were super hospitable. They gave me a bubbly water. They had to run and I had to take a nap because I was very tired from a very long drive from Rochester, New York. That night, I went out for a dinner by myself to a place called Pho Hong, which is a Vietnamese restaurant, which is becoming a real motif of the trip. And after that, I decided I wanted to go out and actually talk to some people. So I drove downtown Burlington and I saw a bar called, I want to say JP's or BJ's or something like that. And I went in and there was a bartender and she was there with one other guy. Her name was Renee, his name was John. And they were about to watch The Walking Dead and I asked if I could ask them some questions. And I said I was writing this book. And the guy was like, "You're not writing a book. This is a pickup line. You're trying to pick her up." I'm like, "Well, sir, I'm writing a book." He's like, "You're not a journalist." Showed him my Oxford student ID. He's like, "You're just trying to pick her up." I was like, Google my name, Brian Bernstein, USA Today, my only true journalistic piece of writing. He looks at me, he's like, "I'm very sorry." And I talked to Renee for a little bit, and John, intermittently, about what's great about living in Burlington, and what they made it sound like was just a utopia. Everyone's very friendly. You have a spare tire, they're going to be there to help you out. It's a good education system, very safe. People are nice, and it's pretty much a great place to live. There are little micro problems. She loves Bernie. He loves Hillary. So there was a little interesting sub-conflict there. But basically, everything seemed great in Vermont, according to that. So the next day I woke up and I went to the Winooski Senior Center, where there was a drop-in coffee for seniors. This is not seniors in high school or college. This is seniors as in the elderly. So I went and I talked to some of them for a little bit, and they gave me a really interesting look at Winooski. Some of them have been there since they were born. Some lived in the same houses that they were born in. They told me about the things that have changed in Winooski. Some of them sat on the board of Winooski. One guy, Ron, was telling me how they were restoring a local community pool, which was very exciting. And one thing they had to say is, there is this sense that it's tough to get a job, and it's tough for young people to come and settle down because they want to usually come experience Vermont, but then they move because they get a better job opportunity. And another thing we talked about is communication, connectivity. They were talking about when their grandchildren come to visit them, they're always on their phone texting. They go out to dinner, they see people on dates, and they're texting, and they're playing games. They're like, why can't my grandchildren just want to spend time with me? Why can't people unplug and put their phones down? And even though that's not a direct correlation to what this project is about, I think it's actually really true. The elderly people are feeling like they are losing out on some of the communication and connectivity that they're used to. That's why our talk was so nice, to sit down and actually, communicate. One of them, Nan, was in this group called the High Steppers. It's a group of 75 plus people who line dance, and they go all around to different places and perform and line dance, and that's how they get their exercise, and they're actually a really big deal. I was going to go see them, but I had another interview this morning that conflicted. So Nan, if you're watching this, I really did intend to go. I really did want to see you, but I had another interview that got changed. The next thing I did is I drove to Montpelier, which is the capital city of Vermont, as I'm sure all people know. I definitely knew that before I got to Vermont. And I took a tour of the Capitol, which is a beautiful building, black and white marble floors. It's the third time it's been rebuilt since the fires. The governor has a ceremonial office there, so we saw that. And then we saw the legislatures, the House and the Senate, both beautiful, classic buildings. Then I found out the governor's office was around the corner, so I went in and I tried to talk to the governor. And for a second, it seemed like he was going to talk to me, but then he didn't. They said, "Oh, send in an email form," and I did, and he didn't respond. So, Phil Scott, you're on my shit list, and I interviewed your opponent. So, hope she wins. And then in Montpelier, I met my friend Sarah, who's been living out there and working at a camp for kids with mental illnesses to go to and do some hikes and sort of start to plot out the next steps in their life. And we're actually going to be together in New Hampshire, so look out for her in that seat right there. And from there, I went down to Fairleigh, Vermont, which is where a town hall was being held at the Fairleigh Town Hall for all different candidates. So it was the state House representative, the state senators, all of whom were running unopposed. So it was interesting just to hear from them as someone who wasn't actually technically campaigning. And then there was the congressional Republican candidate, who was a 25-year-old woman, who was so poised and confident and really gave some effective answers. She was up with the big dog, and she was really awesome. She would be the first woman ever to go to Washington from Vermont, and I think she just answered all the questions and knocked them out of the park. She talked a little bit about Trump. She talked about climate change and pivoted the questions to, why do we have these toxins in our chemicals that we use for cleaning anyway? Why do we have these chemicals in our runoff anyway? Why don't we cut those things that are already toxins from production so that we don't have to focus on cleaning them up to save money, which I thought was actually a very interesting point of view. And then Christine Hallquist, who is the gubernatorial candidate for the Vermont governorship, the first openly trans woman to run for governor. And I got to sit down not only with Christine, but with the candidate for Congress I was talking about, whose name is Anya. So sitting down with Christine was really awesome. I talked to Christine's campaign manager, Brenda, and Brenda's been a tireless advocate for equality in Vermont, has gotten a option for a third gender option on the state IDs, passed different bills for trans equality, including a gender-neutral bathroom bill, which is really exciting. And then Brenda told me a little bit about the story that happened up in upstate Vermont, where two people were debating each other for the state legislature, and then after, a Democrat and Republican both sat down and they played a duet together. They were both musicians. And I thought that was just amazing. And that's really a testament to the civility of Vermont politics. So then I got to talk to Christine, and Christine's main thing is climate change. Christine worked in energy, worked in the renewable energy sector, and has a really ambitious plan to curb climate change that involves not only Vermont, but the entire country, and actually the entire continent. It's called the North American Solution for Combating Climate Change, and it takes in different states and different time zones and different kinds of weather into account, so we can power the United States through a more cohesive hybrid electric grid, depending on the states and what they can offer. It was really interesting, and Christine also talked about the historic nature of her candidacy and a little bit about how on the ground in Vermont she feels like the voters are really concerned about the issues and Christine's stance on the issues, but the national and international news is definitely taken with the fact that she is making history. So she said it really works both ways, that Vermont voters are interested in the issues and they can see Christine as a trans woman, but also a candidate with policies that work. Christine said that running for governor is not the hardest thing she's ever done in her life, alluding to the fact that transitioning must have been very difficult, but also said that, you know what, Vermont has given a lot of support in the past few years, and Christine wants to give back. So Christine was an amazing person to talk to. Then I talked to Anya a little more about what made her a conservative Republican in Vermont. And Anya said she's always been raised with conservative principles. She believes in the Constitution. She believes in defense and economics. It seems like she's in support of Trump. She was in support of Trump in the primaries, and she's in support of Trump now. And I was surprised with the civility with which people treated her during the town hall when they got to ask questions like who she support in the Republican primaries, but also the well thought out nature of her answers and how she could articulate her republicanism as a woman and as I don't exactly know her ethnicity, but her name was not Smith, is harder to pronounce. So I think there is room for different types of point of views in Vermont politics, and I think that's really exciting. There were Republicans from the legislature that were there talking to us about a small town, their small town of Fairleigh in Orange County, and I think it was really interesting because I think a lot of people just assume that Vermont is a Bernie Sanders progressive state. So I drove back that night and went to bed early. I was very tired. And this morning I woke up, got a great breakfast at the Skinny Pancake. I got a really nice hash. And then I went to interview Alan Newman, who founded Magic Hat Brewery, amongst other Vermont-based companies. And Alan talked to me about how Vermont made him who he was as a businessman. Something he said was, you know, Vermont is not the type of place that will get you a job to support the type of lifestyle you might want to have. It's very difficult to find a job and a well-paying job, so it forces you to get creative, and that's what he said. When he founded Magic Hat, he had to get creative and start a business because he didn't see the job in the market, so he created one for himself. He carved his own niche. And he was talking about sort of how he's taught himself to, and always had it in his instinct to go against the grain, go against what everyone else is doing. He said that that's something that's made him very successful as a businessman. When everyone else is branding their new breweries as Vermont-based, he branded Magic Hat as a who knows where it's from company. And I think I didn't know Magic Hat was from Vermont, and I was pleasantly surprised. So an interesting guy, a lot of cool insights, and a great way to end the trip. Vermont, you contain multitudes, and I think I'm a little closer to understanding the Vermont state of mind.